نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها صدق الله العظيم. Pray after me. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله.
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله.
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا حبيب الله.
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا حبيب الله.
صلى الله تعالى عليك وسلم.
صلى الله تعالى عليك وسلم.
Honorable President of Sunni Dawat Islami, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, respectable mashayikh and dignitaries on the stage, dear audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It gives me an immense pleasure to address such a magnificent gathering, and I am very much thankful to the management of Sunni Dawat Islami who gave me an opportunity to stand here on the occasion of Sunni Dawat Islami's 2 days State Sunni Ijtema of Hyderabad. Dear audience, I am called here to say something about the topic compatibility of Muslim personal law with human nature. Islamic Sharia or Muslim personal law teaches that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created humans from clay and breathed the spirit of life into them. He separated them from the rest of creation by giving them 3 divine gifts. The first is intelligence to differentiate the truth from the false, and the second, a will that can freely choose between them, and the third, the power of speech to worship. Because of those gifts, people are the noblest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creatures, superior to rest of nature. However, people are not perfect, although not sinful by nature. Humans are helpless to temptation because they are unruly and proud. They often forget that they are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By seeing this very nature of human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set up such a law in form of Islam that is quite compatible with human nature. Even a single directive in Islam doesn't go against the nature. There are certain directives that are exclusive for the Muslims. They are called Muslim personal law. There are certain demands that come under Muslim personal law. For instance, polygamy, inheritance, dress code, marriage, divorce, and many more. I would like to discuss first the concept of marriage and polygamy in Islam and how it is compatible with human nature. Marriage in Islam is a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and glory. The Quran says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And of His signs is that He created for you mates of your own kind, so that you acquire peace from them. And He created between you love and mercy. Verily in this there are signs for those who meditate. Generally speaking, there are 2 types of marriages in Islam: monogamy and limited polygamy. In monogamy, a man marries with only one woman, and in limited polygamy, one man can marry with 2 or 3, at the most only with 4 women. In Islam, the limited polygamy is a provision approved in exceptional circumstances and under strict conditions only. Vast majority of Muslim men are monogamous in their marriage relationships. I would like to ask those who are against the polygamy and considered it to be a discrimination against women, what happened in those societies where polygamy is not allowed? Whether men remain faithful to their whole married life? 50% of marriages end in divorce to infidelity. Provision of polygamy. Actually, a safety net in society, a safety net against haram or against humiliating a woman. Now, I will talk about, now let me talk about the divorce and misconception of discrimination of women. In this regard, I would say, in Islam, marriage is regarded as contract. Consequently, divorce has always been permissible in the Sharia, which however advocate conciliation prior to and as an alternative to. Then the divorce ensues, but is envisaged that the resolution of the marriage takes place in as amicable a manner as possible, with the parties negotiating as agreement guided by Quranic principles as opposed to adversarial litigation. Divorce is not an entirely unilateral prerogative for the husband, but can also be initiated by the wife on application to a qadi, which is called khula. It is worth mentioning here that it is said in a well-known hadith, among all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made legal, divorce is most hateful. This hadith encapsulates the complex attitude toward divorce. On the one hand, it is permissible to end a marriage. That is to say that the hardships of an intolerable lifelong union need not to be endured. On the other hand, divorce is a final resort and to be avoided if at all possible. Dear audience, now I will say something about inheritance. Islam has given clear guidelines to its followers and regarded in general the men and the women as to have equivalent rights, including but not limited to working, acquiring wealth, possession of property, and the concept of inheritance. The Quran declares, للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه أو كثر نصيبا مفروضا. For men, there is a share from what their parents and close relatives leave, and for women, there is a share from what their parents and close relatives leave, be it little or considerable, a definite share. These words make it clear that, like men, women inherit and have a definite share. Dear listeners, it is a widespread misunderstanding that Islam discriminates women on gender basis and didn't give her inheritance rights as compared to her counterpart. To answer this misconception, I would say it is true that regarding inheritance, Islam has differentiated between men and women. However, this differentiation is due to realistic perception and the financial obligation that the men bear. All the expenses of a life in Islam, men have to bestow meher upon their wives. All the expenses of a wife and children must be paid for by men. Thus, men must work diligently to provide all living expenses, whereas women are not required to pay work for such living expenses. Here, I conclude saying that all the discussion that I made and the examples I put forward prove that Islam is really a religion which is accepted by human nature as well as it is encouraged by our wisdom. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the just understanding of Islam and to propagate it to others. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.